Hello, LegendAqua here for my anime tier list of summer 2022. So, let's start off with one of my spring leftovers, that being a couple of cuckoos. And okay, so I'll say this much: for the for the most part, it's actually a decent rom-com. And it kind of heavily reminds me of quintessential quintuplets. It's just the setting is sort of different, with the main protagonist being not as much as the main protagonist from quintessential quintuplets, but I'll say for a 2-cour anime, it did lose steam over time, although there was a mystery that went on for a very long time, namely, the bigger, who is going to win kind of scenario. But with it both losing steam and with how the ending went, and seriously, the ending was one of those read the manga endings or light novel endings. Yeah, it ultimately became a C for me. I did want to like it a little bit more. Unfortunately, again, with the completely ambiguous cliffhanger ending, and not to mention the main protagonist did not choose anybody, it was left in the air. So they left it. The ending kind of screwed it for me. I did want to like it. The Nao Tarayama character was also my main drive as to continue to watch it. She was pretty much my favorite character, to say the least. But ultimately, it's a decent rom-com with a unique setting. But yeah, that's the best I can say about it. Next up is Devil is a Part-Timer Season 2. So this one got more into the lore of things, as well as the entire let's just say the entire devil and angel scenarios going on with the main cast. Chio also got major character development, and essentially it was just more devil as a part-timer, but we get more into the serious situations with the main cast, as well as some more slice of life moments here and there, because it's basically what devil as a part-timer was known for. Essentially it was decent for me. They did give a cliffhanger, obviously, but if they do get a third season, I don't mind it, so I give it a B. Next up is Call of the Night, and Call of the Night is actually, it is one of my favorites, to say the least. It's done by the same author as Dagashi Kashi, and you can very much see it in the animation and the character designs. It is authentically it's from the Dagashi author. But this one is more introspective toward the main character, as well as getting to know, essentially, it's basically the main character wanting to become a vampire, and we get to see a lot of other characters and what they think of the night, to say the least. It does get into those deep introspective scenarios and such. The main love interest, Nazuna, was also pretty much waifu in a ways. Not to mention she's voiced by Sora Amamiya, but that's besides the point. But overall, I very much liked it. The ending couldn't deal with the main per se villain as such, but it's just more it's a resolution for the main character as such. So it did give him more development in return, in comparison towards here's a rival we have to compete with. It's not that kind of anime, so I can kind of guess why. But either way, Call of the Night it's up there for me for one of the best animes of the season. However, it does have competition. Overlord, season 4. So, this one is also in the B tier. It does get really intense at some points, but it's kind of a cakewalk considering it's Ainz and everything. But there's two things that kind of let it down. One is the rush pacing, because Ainz just like conquers like domains of his isekai world very quickly, and some situations just get brushed under the rug, and he just conquers it, or he just gets into rivalry toward a different country, and they just kind of rush that part a little bit. The ending did help, because it is one of the it's a plot twist that I half saw it coming, but the entire, plot twist being unraveled and everything, that's the thing that I did not expect to happen. And overall, Overlord going forward, it's going to be interesting if it does get a season 5, but more or less, it's more Overlord. A little bit rushed. I wish they did kind of like give a little bit of explanation as to some of the stuff that happened, but the rush pacing was kind of a downgrade because of that, at the very least. Alright, Classroom of the Elite Season 2 is more or less more Classroom of the Elite. We do get more in depth into some of the other characters, namely Kushida, and the entire situation with Suzune? Yeah, Suzune. And her entire ordeal, and of course the main protagonist, his entire... Well, we don't get an entire backstory of him, but we do get to know his belief system in a ways, and the fact that he essentially uses everybody. And considering a lot of the plot twists that happened, it is interesting going forward, considering that there is a third season that has been announced for Classroom of the Elite. Essentially, we will see what happens, because the main protagonist is at odds with basically everybody now, which is to be expected, I will say. But yeah, more Classroom of the Elite. I'm actually fine with it. Where it's going now, it is going to be interesting with a lot of rivalries going on. So we'll see at season 3, more or less. But it was decent. I may give it an A. I'm not too sure. We'll see like the rest. Rent a Girlfriend it's close to an S, but I'm going to give it an A. Namely, it's because we actually, like, the main protagonist, he's trying. I'll say that much. He is trying. He's still kind of, I'm gonna say the S word, simp in a ways, but he's getting better. The main development is from the harem. Namely, Chizuru gets... Well, we get her backstory and, why she is the way she is. And the fact the main protagonist is actually trying to help Chizuru in a ways, I get it. And I actually do kind of like that at the very least, but the entire harem rivalry towards Chizuru, yeah, it gets a little bit crazy there. Especially with the rental situation with everything else. We didn't get to the infamous meme scene for Rent a Girlfriend. However, considering it's getting a third season as well, we might get to it. The only other thing is the fact that Sumi didn't get much screen time. It's more of Ruka and Chizuru, as well as the fact that Mami might know the secret between Chizuru and Ruka, so that entire thing might unravel. We'll see the third season. It is still, in my opinion, it's a better rom-com than Couple of Cuckoos. I'll say that much, considering no announcement for Cast of Cuckoo Season 2, but Rent a Girlfriend, since it's so popular, it's going to get a Season 3. So, in terms of rom-com, it's definitely better, but in terms of the best one, well, we'll see. Next up is Dungeon Season 4. Yep, this is getting to Season 4, and it was announced this is Season 5 because it left on a big cliffhanger. This one, I will say, again, it is more or less the same for the rest of the sequels for this season. However, it does get a slight nudge for me. namely because the stakes have grown a lot bigger. Namely because we get more into Ryu's backstory, because she is one of the more mysterious characters, and the fact that she's my favorite character of the entire anime, and she gets fleshed out a little bit. So to that end, I say it is good, and with the huge cliffhanger that happened and more intense stakes, yeah, it's gonna be interesting going forward with it. I'll say, the first couple of episodes was a bit of it took a bit of time to get there, and then the second arc that started with Ryu's arc is where it got interesting. So I'll give it that. Next up is my stepsister is my ex. Yeah, interesting name for an anime, and that is actually exactly the reason why I got interested with this one. Here's the thing, they actually went with the premise, and they stuck to it. Yes, it may be, the I word, because as I said, the anime title, you kind of guessed where the other little nudging thing might come in, but oddly enough, it is more about actually the relationship between the stepbrother and the now stepsister kind of scenario, and why they are the way they are. It's also the entire thing with family, because if they can't get along, the entire family will break up, and they just can't, they won't be able to function, so they kind of need to keep up the act at the same time. It is keeping the premise and making it interesting, which is, funnily enough, why I kept to it, because as much as the premise is in the I territory, it is still actually kept with the premise and actually stuck to it, and as well as obviously fleshing out the characters as a result. And it's not just about the I, it's more or less about the family, which is kind of something I wasn't expecting from a rom-com like this. There are obviously some itchy stuff here and there, but it is mainly about the relationship between the once couple that turned into stepbrother and stepsister. So it is, yeah, I may be dodging the issue, but there's no actual issue with it, because there seriously isn't. So that was pretty much the surprise for me, and kind of ties up for me as one of the better rom-coms. It was extremely surprising that they didn't go the itchy route completely. They were being sincere and serious about it, which I really wasn't expecting. Next up is my maid is suspicious. So here's the thing, I actually read the first chapter of this, and considering I've got a fetish for maids and everything, yes, that is the other reason why I actually got caught interest towards it, and the fact that it has Saori Hayami and Rie Takahashi in it. So yeah, that was an interesting combo, and to say the least, this is more one of the slice of life romance animes, in quotation marks. I did very much like it. It's also kind of funny, the fact that the Rie Takahashi character is now the one being teased instead of the other way around, because she voiced Takagi-san. But more or less, we do get to see the main characters' backstories fleshed out. We get into some hijinks here and there, obviously, and the fact that the maid is suspicious as to the entire premise is basically the main character's parents died, and he pretty much has a mansion, but he sent all of his parents' maids, butlers away because he wanted to live on his own and everything in this huge mansion. And then suddenly a maid shows up and just says, can I be your maid? Obviously that will arouse suspicion, and the suspicion is not that bad, because at the end of the backstory of the suspicious maid, it wasn't that big of a suspicious thing. But yeah, I liked it. It was a decent slice of life rom-com. Yeah, I very much liked it. So I would say that, okay, slice of life wise, it is one of the better rom-coms. But my stepsister is my ex is actually kind of better in terms of the harem aspect, while actually no, Rental Girlfriend season 2 is actually better in the harem aspect. I'll just say that. Oh, okay, rom-com wise, it is hard to say which one's the best because all three is actually pretty good in their respective elements. So I'll give it that. All right, Love Live Superstars season 2. So, we get more characters to get with the 9 for the group and everything. The new cast members were actually great additions in my opinion because they gelled well. The fact that Love Live Superstars is getting a 3rd season is actually promising to me because they can, Sunrise can finally keep an idol group and just keep them. I hope. But in terms of my favorite new characters, it probably have to be Shiki. And in terms of the already formed group Ren gets some character development, which I wasn't expecting. Actually, no, to be honest, Sunrise would have known that that was a bit of a problem and they fleshed it out with the 2nd season, so I'll give it that. Overall, there was one serious situation near the end expected. I almost fell for the bluff, but I kind of knew, considering the 3rd season was announced before I watched the final episode. I almost fell for the bluff, but I didn't because I knew this 3rd season was showing up. So yeah, overall, Love Live Superstars 2nd season fleshed out the entire nine members. I very much liked it. I can't go into, spoilers because it's going into the characters as well as the Love Live thing. So, overall, the 2nd season of Love Live Superstars, definitely good. On speaking of good, we've got Licorice Recoil and... Okay, so, a little bit of small history. This wasn't on my docket for my summer 2022 animes. However, since I've heard some hype around it, around week 4, I said, you know what, I'm not watching that many off-seasonal daily animes. Why not just rush towards Licorice Recoil episode 4 and just see what all the hubbub's about? I was extremely surprised. Essentially, John Wick with high school girls, with guns. And as much as some people complain about the characters being like one-dimensional or something, I didn't see that. There were a lot of character development from a lot of the cast, namely Chisato and Takina. So for that, as well as the fact that they actually did the ending well, because it could potentially open up towards other seasons if they do get a 2nd season. That and the fact that this is an original anime and it blew up. Yeah, Licorice Recoil is actually up there for one of the best animes of the season. That's all I'll leave it as, because yeah, Call of the Night has competition. it might actually overtake it, to be honest. Alright, now Isekai Oji-san. Okay, so there's a reason I'm not going to even put this on my tier list at the moment, but if I had to, it would be an A, but I'm going to put it here. Why? It's not finished. So, yeah, I can't put it on the tier list. If I had to, it would be an A. Why isn't it not finished yet, or haven't you finished watching it? 2 problems. Production issues and COVID just delayed the entire anime. I don't know whether it's Netflix's fault or it's the production as a whole, as well as the fact that, COVID hit the entire production stuff. From what I've heard, it just ultimately got delayed, so I can't I can't put it on the tier list. Overall, it's a decent, actually, it's not even decent, it's actually a very good isekai parody, and I do want to see the end of it. So his holding out there does, production hell gets, resolved for Isekai Oji-san, because I do like Isekai Oji-san. Alright, so this is still within the seasonal stuff, but I did actually start to watch Maiden Abyss. And here's the thing, when I started to watch Maiden Abyss for my daily stuff, I kind of forgot that the second season was actually going on at the same time. So, yeah, it just left my head for that one. But, alright, I'll say for Maiden Abyss, the first season, let's just say the beginning, or like the introduction towards the entire premise of Maiden Abyss, it took some time. Them going through the first, second, and third layer, I was not expecting them to rush it. Well, not exactly rush it. It's my interpretation of them just rushing it, because they just went through like the second to third layer extremely quickly, from what I could tell, anyways. But considering not much stuff was in there at the start, I can kind of see why they did it. But afterwards, it got really interesting, namely because once it introduces Nanachi, yeah, I got very into it afterwards. So it had a slow start. But afterwards, yeah, I instantly got attached towards it, namely because of Nanachi. So yeah, after that, we've got the movie that features, let's just say, an antagonist in quotation marks, because we get down to the fifth layer, and a whole lot of stuff goes on. A lot of lore development, more about the Abyss itself, as well as Rico, Rig, everything, as well as finally we get to meet the second White Whistle. We meet the first White Whistle in the first season. The movie goes into the second one, and him as an antagonist, at first, yeah, like, obviously, I hated him. I absolutely hated him. But after one of my Discord members who was a huge fan of Maiden Abyss pretty much said there were just some things that makes him ambiguously evil, but at the same time, for the good intentions of the main protagonist at the same time. I did kind of get that, because at the same time, the first White Whistle we meet also kind of has it, although she's not evil. But this guy, yeah, he's very much worse than the first White Whistle we meet. I'm not going into names, because that kind of goes into spoilers and everything. But the movie, definitely, like, lore expansion, character development, huge character development, and just, yeah, I was floored by the movie. Not as much as I was floored by the second season. So, here's the thing. The second season, we get new characters, and I thought it was just going into, like, this is a, like, these characters, how can I say it? They were before Rico and Rig, in a ways. So I thought, like, from the first episode, I thought we were just going into a prelude, in a ways, as to all these new characters, how they found the Abyss, and how they went straight down to the sixth layer. I thought that was the entire season. No, it's not. Because it's Rico and Rig's journey, which is kind of what, yeah, that kind of slipped my mind. And then I thought that these new characters would dampen Rico and Rig's journey. On the contrary, definitely they were great additions towards the main cast. They elevated them. Obviously, we get more development, mainly this time from Rig's, because of one of the main new characters that kind of has a connection towards Rig. That and the entire 6th layer itself, as well as this new village that's somehow in the 6th layer. Yeah, there's a village in the 6th layer. It was crazy for the 2nd season. It was absolutely crazy. In my opinion, it rivals Licorice Recoil for me. If not, maybe takes the 1st place. I'll think about it once I finish up, because there's one more contender. But yeah, just Maiden Abyss. They left it not at a cliffhanger, but they did resolve the main issue with these new characters and everything. I was floored, much as I was from the movie, but yeah, Maiden Abyss 2nd season was crazy good. I cannot wait for the 3rd season, if it even does. Again, also, Maiden Abyss was obviously one of the animes that I've kind of like missed out on. Obviously, I should have listened to the hype for this one. But it's good to know that even now, like, Maiden Abyss is crazy good, because the 2nd season came out the same time I started watching the 1st season. So, yeah, that's saying something. And lastly, not lastly, second to last of my seasonal stuff that I watched is Jason-chan 3rd season. And more or less, it's more Jason-chan, but Jason-chan, as well as everybody, the entire main cast, basically goes on the Japanese tour. It's namely because Jason-chan is trying to get rid of her depth, so she's on the run, essentially, for the most of the time. That's what's going on with Jason-chan. Hatsune Miku also makes an appearance in every episode, because they said that they were going to make a cameo of Hatsune Miku, and yes, the voice actor for Hatsune Miku was in every episode as well, so it's not just the, hi cameo and don't say anything. It was actually a vocal cameo of Hatsune Miku in Jason-chan. That's probably one of the biggest things for this 3rd season. Overall, it was alright. It's expected with Jason-chan, but the voice actor for Jason-chan basically made this entire anime as it is, so yeah. Seriously, Jason-chan got a 3rd season, namely because of the crowdfunding thing, from what I remember. So, overall, Jason-chan, it was actually pretty good as a comedy, but it was decent as well, I'm gonna say. Next up is onto my daily stuff. Obviously, you can kind of see I didn't watch that much. However, Maiden Abyss kind of took that. So, yeah, because I watched Maiden Abyss, the movie, and then went straight into the 2nd season. Yeah. I will say, actually, like going back to Maiden Abyss has to be probably the fastest I've ever binged a series before. Up to the point of like catching up to the 2nd season of Maiden Abyss. I believe I finished Maiden Abyss 1st season in like 4 days, I believe. The movie, obviously, 1 day, and then I caught up towards the 2nd season as it was airing in like 2 days. So essentially, I caught up to Maiden Abyss in like 2 weeks, which is insane speed for me. Like, seriously, it was insane speed for me. Considering all the content I just said. So, yeah. Okay, so back towards that. There's a reason why I said that. But first is one of my daily stuff, and the first one is Iron Man. Yeah, I watched the anime of Iron Man, and it's basically Iron Man going to Japan. Yeah. The main reason why I did watch it was because Shizuka Ito voiced a character, and in my opinion, she was probably my favorite character, and what drove me to carry on to finish. And essentially, it's sort of like it's calling back a little bit towards the first Marvel Iron Man movie in a sense, but instead this time it's in Japan. You can kind of see who the big bad is the entire time. You don't know who the Lancer or the Dragon of the big bad is, however, and that threw me off. But overall, Iron Man anime. I was expecting to hate it. I actually kind of liked it. So I'll give it a C. It's why I'm not giving it a D or an F for this one. Next up is Mitsuboshi Colors, and this is also a C because it's just a decent slice of life. Essentially, it's just three kids acting out that they're protectors of the city, and they're just trying to annoy a policeman on patrol. Most of the time, they get into hijinks. It's your expected, slice of life with kids, and they do act like kids. At the very least, I'll give them that. So. Yeah, Mitsuboshi Colors, I was kind of interested in it because namely of the meme of them holding the bazooka, but overall, yeah, decent slice of life. Next up is Hitoribochi, and Hitoribochi is also a C. Obviously, actually not obviously, this is about the main character who has, she's extremely shy and she can't make friends because the entire premise is her trying to make friends with her entire class, otherwise her best friend won't become her best friend anymore. The fact that they're in two different schools also counts as to the entire premise. You may think the best friend is actually being mean, which is what I thought in the first place, because, her entire reasoning was unreasonable. It actually wasn't, because it is the best friend trying to make Hitoribochi open herself up and not be so shy. And there are obviously some hilarity that ensues, but overall, much like Mitsuboshi Colors, yeah, I did just enjoy it as a slice of life comedy kind of scenario, and the fact that I kind of relate to Hitoribochi in a ways. And lastly is Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and this is probably my second fastest that I've binged in anime, because I believe I finished this in about 3 days for a 12 episode anime. Like 3 to 4 days, I believe I finished it. Yeah, that was pretty quick. Again, much like Maiden Abyss and where is it? Much like Maiden Abyss and Licorice Recoil, I want to know what all the hubbub was about. And yeah, I realized very quickly, one, it's done by Trigger, and they just went all out with this. There's no censors, it's all gory, it's crazy. It was, not to mention, from what I've heard, it fleshes out a lot of the Cyberpunk world and everything. But from what I've heard, actually, Cyberpunk Edge Runners did actually help boost the player base of Cyberpunk 2077 as well because of that. Namely because of revenge, because of a certain scene that happened. You all know the ones if you've watched Cyberpunk Edge Runners. But yeah, easily. It's also another top contender for me for best anime of the season because, one, it's Trigger, and two, it's just bombastic as hell, and I loved it. Not to mention the entire thing with the main character and what he's going through and everything. It just it went off. It went off, and I just, oh my god. If I had to say what my favorite anime was for this season, oh my god, it's obviously it's a toss-up between Maiden Abyss Season 2, Licorice Recoil, and Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Yeah, Call of Night got kicked. But it's between those three. Oh my god, I don't know which one's the best for me. Like, it's, in my opinion, it's like interchangeable between all three, and I can't pinpoint what my favorite was. It's basically all three of them. If I had to, like, gun to my head and everything, I think it might be Maiden Abyss. Season 2. No, but Licorice Recoil was good as the original anime. And Cyberpunk Edge Runners was good as well. Ah, I can't pick. I'm leaving it there. You just, I can't. But yeah, overall, that's my summer 2022 anime tier list. Comment below what you think about my tier list, as well as what your favorite animes of summer 2022 are. And yeah, I'll see you in fall of 2022's anime tier list. With that, LA out.